The council chamber on Helios Prime Station was filled with representatives from 40 different species. Ambassador Zaraketh of the Velkari Empire sat in her designated seat, her scaled hands resting calmly on the armrests. She had attended hundreds of these meetings over the past 3 years. Nothing surprised her anymore. Admiral Lucas Grant stood at the central podium, discussing recent security concerns in the Outer Rim territories. The human spoke with his usual direct manner, listing facts and proposed solutions. Zaraketh listened with half her attention, already planning her afternoon schedule. The pirate warlord Krexnor has attacked 6 colony worlds in the past month, Grant said. His fleet now controls 12 systems. The attacks are becoming bolder. Yesterday, he raided a medical transport carrying refugees. 17 people died. Council Speaker Thren, a tall Morvathian with silver skin, clicked his mandibles together. What does humanity propose? We cannot spare military forces for a campaign in that region. Our fleets are stretched thin across too many territories. Grant nodded. We understand. That's why Earth is offering to handle this situation independently. We'll send a specialist to resolve the crisis. Several ambassadors shifted in their seats. The Galnorian representative, a being of pure energy contained in a crystalline form, pulsed with concern. One specialist? Krexnor commands over 200 warships. What can one person accomplish? Quite a lot, actually, Grant replied. We're sending Jake Morrison. The data tablet slipped from Zaraketh's hands and clattered to the floor. Every head in the chamber turned toward her. Her breathing had quickened. Her hands trembled as she bent to retrieve the device. Lieutenant Amy Chen, Grant's diplomatic aide, noticed the reaction. The young human woman made a mental note to ask about it later. Zaraketh forced herself to remain still. She placed the tablet carefully on her lap and gripped the armrests. The name echoed in her mind. Jake Morrison. After 6 months, hearing it still affected her like ice water in her veins. The council continued their discussion, but Zaraketh barely heard the words. Her mind pulled her backward through time, to the day that changed everything she believed about warfare and strength. 6 months ago, Zaraketh had commanded the Velkari strike force Crimson Talon, 15 cruisers, each one a masterpiece of military engineering. Her crew numbered over 3,000 of the finest warriors the Velkari Empire could produce. They had engaged human forces near the Crossing Nebula, testing Earth's resolve in a disputed sector. The battle started as she expected. Human ships were smaller, less advanced. Velkari weapons cut through their shields with ease. Zaraketh allowed herself a moment of satisfaction. These newcomers would learn their place in the Galactic Order. Her tactical officer, a veteran named Jex Val, reviewed incoming data. Commander, sensors detect a single human fighter approaching our position. Small craft, 1 pilot. Designation says Jake Morrison. Zaraketh dismissed the report with a wave. 1 fighter? Ignore it. Focus on their main battle group, Jexval insisted. Commander, the human communications are specifically warning us about this pilot. They're asking us to withdraw. Ridiculous, Zaraketh said. Continue the attack. The fighter appeared on visual displays 30 seconds later. It was sleek, compact, nothing impressive about its design. Standard armament. No special markings except the name Valiant painted on the hull. What happened next defied every tactical principle Zaraketh learned in 40 years of military service. The fighter moved like liquid mercury through space. It curved and spun in ways that should have torn itself apart from the forces involved. Velkari weapons tracked it. Fired. Missed. Again and again, they missed. Morrison's ship weaved through the Crimson Talon formation like a needle through cloth. He fired precisely, hitting power couplings, weapon systems, shield generators. Never the crew sections, never the life support. Always the systems that would disable but not destroy. Zaraketh watched her flagship's tactical display as red indicators spread across her fleet. Ship after ship reported weapons offline, engines damaged, shields collapsed. The fighter danced between them. Untouchable, unstoppable. All ships, concentrate fire on that target, she commanded. Overlap your firing solutions. Fill that entire sector with energy. 15 cruisers fired simultaneously. The space around Morrison's ship became a storm of plasma bolts and particle beams. Enough firepower to vaporize a small moon. The fighter slipped through gaps that shouldn't exist. Morrison anticipated every shot, knew where each weapon would fire before the gunners themselves knew. He moved like he could see the future. In 12 minutes, 7 of her cruisers were floating dead in space. Crews safe, ships intact, but completely unable to fight. Zaraketh gave the order she never imagined giving. All remaining ships, retreat, full speed. As her fleet limped away, Morrison's fighter followed them for several minutes, not attacking, just watching, ensuring they actually left. Then it turned and flew back toward human territory. Jex Val reviewed the battle data afterward, his voice shaking. "Commander, analysis shows Morrison was holding back. Every shot he fired was precisely calculated to disable, not destroy. He could have killed us all. He chose not to." That realization hit Zaraketh harder than any weapon. She defeated herself not against superior technology, but against superior skill combined with deliberate mercy. Morrison didn't just beat her. He beat her while protecting her life and the lives of her entire crew. She spent weeks studying everything available about Jake Morrison. The records showed a human in his early 30s. Former Special Forces. Orphaned as a child. Turned down 6 promotions because he preferred active service. Hundreds of missions. 0 unnecessary casualties. He treated enemies with the same care he showed allies. The Velkari culture valued strength and honor through combat. Zaraketh grew up believing the greatest warriors were those who destroyed their enemies completely. Morrison destroyed that belief. He showed her that true strength meant protecting life, even your opponent's life. Back in the council chamber, the discussion continued. Speaker Thren expressed doubt. One human against a pirate fleet seems optimistic at best, suicidal at worst. Admiral Grant smiled slightly. Jake Morrison doesn't lose. Not ever. Krexnor is dangerous, yes, but Morrison will handle it. The meeting ended 20 minutes later. Ambassadors filed out, discussing the decision. Most thought humanity was being reckless or arrogant. Some suspected hidden agendas. Lieutenant Amy Chen approached Zaraketh in the corridor outside. Ambassador, I noticed your reaction when Admiral Grant mentioned Morrison. May I ask why? Zaraketh looked at the young human woman. Amy seemed genuinely curious, not hostile or suspicious. She probably knew Morrison personally, given her position. Tell me, Lieutenant, Zaraketh said carefully. Does your species understand what they have created in that man? Amy blinked, surprised. Created? Jake's just a really good pilot and soldier. He works hard, trains constantly. Is there something I'm missing? Zaraketh wanted to explain the terror and awe that came from facing Morrison in battle. She wanted to describe the feeling of watching your entire worldview crumble, as one person demonstrated that everything you believed was incomplete. But words failed her. You will understand eventually, she said quietly. The galaxy will understand. Your people have unleashed something unprecedented. A warrior whose power comes not from hate or conquest, but from conviction and mercy. That makes him more dangerous than any weapon. Amy frowned, clearly confused. Zaraketh didn't elaborate. She simply walked away, her hands still trembling slightly. Somewhere in space, Jake Morrison's ship Valiant accelerated toward the outer rim, toward Krexnor's territory. Toward another battle that would change how the galaxy viewed humanity. Zaraketh returned to her quarters and sat in the dark, remembering. She wondered if Krexnor would survive the encounter. She wondered if the warlord would learn the same lesson she learned, that defeating Jake Morrison was impossible not because he couldn't be beaten, but because beating him meant becoming someone worthy of his respect. And very few people ever reached that standard. The name still made her tremble. But now, 6 months later, it was not just fear. It was something else. Something like hope that perhaps the galaxy could learn from this human, that perhaps warriors everywhere could understand that strength and compassion were not opposites, but partners in creating something better than endless conflict. Jake Morrison was coming, and the galaxy would never be quite the same afterward. Warlord Krex Nor sat on his throne of salvaged metal and stolen technology. The massive Gathian leaned back, his 4 arms draped across the armrests. Before him, holographic displays showed his expanding territory. 12 systems under his control, 237 warships in his fleet, thousands of warriors loyal to him through fear and profit. His fortress on Terminus 17 was built into the side of a mountain. Layers of shields and weapon systems protected it. No military force in the Outer Rim could threaten him here. He was untouchable. First Officer Drelnok entered the throne room, walking with the confidence of a veteran warrior. Warlord, our scouts report activity from the Galactic Council. They appear to be responding to our recent raids. Krexnor laughed, a deep rumbling sound. Finally. I was beginning to think they would ignore us forever. How many ships are they sending? Drelnok checked his datapad. That's the strange part. Only one ship. Warlord. A small human vessel. The laughter stopped. Krexnor leaned forward. One ship? Are they mocking me? It appears to be genuine, Warlord. The ship is called Valiant, piloted by a human named Jake Morrison. Krexnor stood, his full height reaching nearly 3 meters. One human. They send one human to stop me. This is an insult. Shall I destroy the ship when it enters our territory? No, Krexnor said, pacing across the throne room. Bring the human prisoner. The cargo captain we captured last month. I want someone to witness this humiliation. 10 minutes later, guards brought Captain Vincent Hayes into the throne room. The human looked thin and tired from weeks of captivity. But his eyes remained sharp. Chains bound his wrists, but he stood straight, refusing to show weakness. Krexnor gestured to the holographic display showing the approaching human ship. Captain Hayes, your people have sent someone to rescue you. One pilot in one small ship. What do you think of your government's effort? Vincent studied the display. His eyes widened when he saw the ship's designation. The Valiant? Jake Morrison is coming here? You know this name? Krexnor asked. Vincent's expression changed completely. The weariness vanished, replaced by something like relief. Yeah. I know the name. Every human in the military knows that name. Is he some kind of admiral? A fleet commander? No, Vincent said slowly. He's just a pilot. But Warlord, you've made a serious mistake. Krexnor found this amusing. He circled Vincent like a predator studying prey. Please, enlighten me. Why is one human pilot a threat to my empire? Vincent met his gaze directly. Because Jake Morrison doesn't lose. Ever. I served in Earth's military for 12 years. I heard the stories. Morrison once ended a 3-week siege in under an hour. He disabled an entire rebel fleet without firing a single lethal shot. When Earth sends Morrison, the mission succeeds. Always. The warlord laughed again. Stories, legends. Every species has their heroes and myths. Let me tell you a truth, Captain. I have 237 warships. I have thousands of trained warriors. One human cannot stand against that. You'll see, Vincent said quietly. Krexnor had Vincent taken to a holding cell with windows overlooking the space above the fortress. Watch, human. Watch what happens to your legendary Morrison. As Vincent was led away, he called back over his shoulder. I'm not watching to see him fail, Warlord. I'm watching to witness something you've never experienced. Defeat. Krexnor dismissed the comment. He returned to his tactical center and gave orders to his elite squadron. 15 pilots, each one chosen for exceptional skill and ruthlessness. Their ships were heavily armed, equipped with the best stolen technology from a dozen different civilizations. Intercept this human, Krexnor commanded. Capture him if possible. Destroy him if necessary. Make it quick. The elite squadron launched, their ships forming a precise attack formation. They moved through space with practiced coordination, confident in their superiority. In his cell, Vincent watched through the reinforced window. Other prisoners gathered around him, drawn by the unusual activity. A Delnari female asked what was happening. "Help is coming," Vincent said. "One ship cannot save us," a Corthan male replied. "We are dozens. The warlord has an army." Vincent smiled. "You don't understand. That's not just any pilot out there." The elite squadron found Morrison's ship at the edge of the system. Their leader, a pilot called Vexthar, opened a communication channel. "Human vessel Valiant. You are ordered to power down your engines and prepare to be boarded. Resistance will result in your destruction." Morrison's voice came through calm and clear. "You have one chance to stand down and return to base. This is your only warning." The squadron pilots looked at each other in disbelief. Vexi Thar responded with anger. "You dare threaten us? You are outnumbered 15 to 1. "I know," Morrison said. "That's why I'm giving you this chance." Vexthar cut the communication and gave the order to attack. 15 ships opened fire simultaneously, filling space with energy bolts and missiles. Morrison's ship moved. It curved through the incoming fire like water flowing around rocks. The Valiant spun, dipped, accelerated in ways that defied understanding. Not a single shot touched it. The squadron adjusted, spreading out to create crossfire patterns. Morrison flew through the gaps between ships, his movements precise and calculated. He returned fire with pinpoint accuracy. Vexthar's weapon systems exploded in a shower of sparks. His ship was intact, life support functioning, but he could not fight. One by one, the other ships suffered the same fate. Morrison disabled each vessel with surgical precision, never hitting critical systems, never endangering the crews. 90 seconds after the battle started, all 15 elite ships floated helpless in space. Their pilots sat in stunned silence, unable to comprehend what just happened. Morrison opened the channel again. "Medical rescue ships will arrive in 20 minutes. Stay with your vessels. If anyone needs immediate assistance, I can provide it." Then he continued toward Terminus 7, leaving the defeated squadron behind. Krexnor watched the battle data, his confidence shaken for the first time in years. Drelnok stood beside him, studying the recordings. "How is this possible?" Krexnor demanded. "Those were my best pilots. Warlord. This human moves like no pilot I have ever seen. The forces his ship sustains should kill him. Either he has technology beyond our understanding, or..." Drelnak paused. "Or what? Or he is simply that skilled." Krexnor slammed one fist against the console. "Skill has limits. Technology has limits. I will not be beaten by one human." Drelnak straightened. "Warlord. Allow me to lead the main fleet against him. 50 ships. Overwhelming firepower. He cannot dodge everything." Krexnor considered this. Pride warred with caution in his mind. Finally, pride won. "Take 50 ships, coordinate your fire. Create kill zones he cannot escape. Show this Morrison that skill means nothing against superior numbers." Drelnak saluted and left to organize the fleet. Krexnor watched the preparations, telling himself that this would end the threat. 50 warships against one fighter. The outcome was certain. In his cell, Vincent watched Krexnor's fleet launch. The other prisoners pressed against the window, counting the ships. 50 vessels, the Delnari female whispered. "They will overwhelm him." Vincent shook his head. "You still don't understand. Numbers don't matter against Morrison. He sees battles differently than other people. Where we see chaos, he sees patterns. Where we see overwhelming odds, he sees opportunities." "You have faith in this human," the Corthan said. "Not faith," Vincent corrected. "Experience. I've seen what Morrison can do. Not personally, but I've talked to people who served with him. He's not some superhero. He's just a man who trained harder, thought deeper, and cared more than anyone else. That combination makes him unstoppable." The 50 ships formed a massive formation around Morrison's projected path. Drelnak coordinated their positions with tactical precision. When Morrison entered range, they fired together. The volume of firepower was immense, enough to destroy a capital ship in seconds. The Valiant danced through the storm. Morrison's ship twisted and turned, finding safe paths through the concentrated fire. He accelerated, decelerated, using three-dimensional space in ways the pirates could not predict. His return fire was methodical, each shot perfectly placed. Ships began losing weapons, one after another. Morrison worked through the fleet like an artist creating a masterpiece. Never rushed, never random. Each movement had purpose. Each shot had meaning. Drelnock tried everything. He adjusted formations, changed tactics, attempted to predict Morrison's patterns. Nothing worked. The human stayed one step ahead, always moving, always precise. 12 minutes into the battle, 47 ships floated disabled. Only 3 remained functional. Their pilots, seeing their entire fleet defeated, chose survival over pride. They retreated at full speed. Morrison parked his ship directly in front of Drelnock's flagship. The two vessels hung in space, facing each other. Morrison opened a communication channel to the fortress. "Warlord Krex Nor, this is Jake Morrison. Your fleet is disabled. Your defenses are vulnerable. I am giving you 10 minutes to release all prisoners and surrender yourself for trial. In exchange, no one else needs to get hurt. You have my word." Krexnor stared at the holographic display showing his crippled fleet. Rage and disbelief battled in his mind. This could not be happening. He was Krexnor, the undefeated warlord. He controlled 12 systems. One human could not end everything he built. "Activate planetary defenses," he ordered. "Target that ship. Fire everything." Massive cannons emerged from the fortress. Weapons designed to crack starship hulls. They locked onto Morrison's ship and fired in coordinated volleys. Morrison evaded every shot. Then he returned fire, destroying each cannon with impossible accuracy. Within minutes, the fortress's external defenses were rubble. Krex Nor watched his last weapons fall silent. For the first time in his life as a warlord, he felt something unfamiliar and terrifying: fear. Morrison's ship descended toward the main landing bay. The hangar doors opened, and the Valiant touched down gently. The hangar bay doors sealed behind Morrison's ship. 200 armed warriors surrounded the Valiant, weapons trained on the boarding ramp. Krex Nor watched through security cameras, expecting a monster to emerge, some terrifying warrior in advanced armor, carrying devastating weapons. The ramp lowered. Jake Morrison walked out. He looked ordinary. Average height for a human. Lean build. Probably in his early 30s. Short brown hair. Calm blue eyes. He wore standard Earth military combat gear, nothing special or intimidating. A sidearm hung at his hip, but he kept his hands relaxed and visible. The warriors tensed, confused by this normal appearance. Their commander barked orders. "Surrender immediately, or we will open fire." Morrison stopped walking. He looked at the 200 soldiers surrounding him with what seemed like genuine regret. "I really hoped you would choose the easy way. Please, stand down. No one needs to get hurt." The commander laughed. "You are outnumbered 200 to 1, human. You cannot win." "I don't want to win," Morrison said quietly. "I want to help. There are innocent prisoners here who need rescue. I would prefer to accomplish that without violence. But if you force me to fight, I will." The warriors raised their weapons. Morrison sighed, a sound of deep disappointment. Then, he moved. What happened next would be reviewed on security footage for weeks afterward, studied by military tacticians across the galaxy. Morrison became a blur of motion. He crossed 30 meters in seconds, disarming the nearest warriors with precise strikes. His hands moved too fast to follow clearly. Each touch disabled a weapon or rendered a soldier unconscious. He fought without wasted movement. No flourishes, no showmanship, pure efficiency. A warrior attacked from behind. Morrison ducked without looking, struck backward, and the attacker fell. 3 more rushed him together. Morrison spun between them, his elbow catching one, his foot sweeping another, his hand striking the third's pressure point. Bodies fell around him, all breathing, all alive, just unconscious or disarmed. Morrison's expression remained calm, almost sad. He looked like someone doing an unpleasant but necessary job. The commander activated his personal shield and drew an energy blade. He was a veteran of 50 battles, trained in 7 combat styles. He charged Morrison with a warrior's roar. Morrison sidestepped the blade, caught the commander's wrist, twisted gently, and the weapon fell. Before the commander could react, Morrison struck 3 quick points on his torso. The commander collapsed, paralyzed but conscious. Morrison knelt beside him. "You'll recover in about 20 minutes. I'm sorry it came to this." He stood and surveyed the hangar. 200 soldiers down. Time elapsed, 4 minutes and 30 seconds. Morrison checked his weapon, still holstered. He had not fired a single shot. Krexnor watched from his command center, his hands gripping the console so hard the metal bent. "Seal all corridors to the prison section. Deploy all remaining forces. Stop him." Drelnok stood beside him, analyzing Morrison's fighting technique. "Warlord, this human is beyond conventional combat ability. He moves like he knows what his opponents will do before they do it. Then overwhelm him with numbers," Krexnor snarled. "I have thousands of warriors in this fortress." Morrison proceeded through the fortress toward the prison section. At every checkpoint, soldiers blocked his path. At every checkpoint, Morrison tried talking first. "Please move aside. I don't want to hurt anyone. Just let me pass." They never listened. They attacked, confident in their training and numbers. Morrison defended himself with the same calm efficiency. He disabled weapons, struck pressure points, avoided lethal force. Soldiers woke up later with bruises and damaged pride, but alive. In his cell, Vincent watched Morrison's progress on the security feeds that Krexnor foolishly left active. The other prisoners gathered around him, eyes wide with disbelief. "He fights like water flowing downhill," the Delnari female said. "Nothing stops him, but he does not destroy." "That's Morrison's way," Vincent explained. "He could kill every person in this fortress. He has the skill, but he chooses not to. He believes every life matters, even his enemies. That belief makes him stronger, not weaker." A Korthan prisoner who claimed to be a former soldier shook his head. "Mercy is weakness. A warrior who hesitates dies." "Morrison never hesitates," Vincent said. "He just chooses non-lethal options first. That takes more skill, more control. Anyone can kill. Not everyone can win while preserving life." Morrison reached a heavy security door leading to the inner fortress. It was sealed, designed to withstand artillery fire. Morrison studied it for a moment, then pulled a small device from his belt. He placed it on the door's locking mechanism. The device hummed. 3 seconds later, the locks disengaged. The door slid open. 30 elite guards waited on the other side, positioned behind cover with heavy weapons. Their leader shouted, "Open fire." The corridor filled with energy bolts. Morrison dropped, rolled, came up behind a support pillar. Returned fire came from his sidearm. Precise shots that hit weapons and forced the guards into cover. He advanced steadily, using the environment, timing his movements between volleys. A guard tried to flank him. Morrison sensed the movement, turned, fired once. The guard's weapon exploded in his hands, harmless, but shocking. The guard stared at his empty hands, then at Morrison. He raised his hands in surrender. Morrison nodded. "Smart choice. Stay down. You're safe." The battle continued. Morrison moved through the corridor like a ghost, appearing where he was least expected. His shots never killed, only disabled. Within minutes, all 30 guards were disarmed and restrained, alive and unharmed beyond minor injuries. Morrison continued deeper into the fortress. He encountered automated defenses, security systems designed to kill intruders. He bypassed some, disabled others, destroyed the few that gave no other option. His path was marked by sparking machines and unconscious guards. a trail of non-lethal destruction. In the command center, Krexnor's rage grew with each defeated section. Drelnak watched Morrison's approach, calculating odds. Warlord, he will reach the prison within 10 minutes at this pace. I request permission to make a final stand. Krexnor glared at his first officer. You think you can succeed where 200 warriors failed? No, Warlord, Drelnak said honestly. But I can delay him. Buy you time to prepare your defenses. It is my duty. Krexnor considered this. Pride demanded he refuse, but pragmatism won. Take your best warriors. Stop him if you can. Delay him if you cannot. Drelnak gathered 30 of the fortress's most skilled fighters. These were veterans, survivors of countless battles. They positioned themselves at the final checkpoint before the prison section. Unlike the others, they did not mock Morrison or underestimate him. They prepared with grim determination. Morrison approached the checkpoint cautiously. His scan showed the quality of warriors waiting ahead. He paused, checking his equipment, taking a moment to center himself. Final checkpoint ahead, he said quietly to himself. Let's try one more time. He stepped into view, hands raised and empty. Drelnak stood at the center of his formation, weapon ready but not aimed. First Officer Drelnak, Morrison said, somehow knowing the name. You don't have to do this. Your fleet is disabled. Your warlord is finished. Stand aside and let me help the prisoners. When the Galactic Council arrives, surrender peacefully. You'll face trial, but you'll live. Drelnak straightened. You speak with honor, human. I recognize your skill and your mercy. But I have served Krexnor for 15 years. Loyalty demands I defend him, even against impossible odds. Morrison nodded slowly, understanding and respecting the position. Then I'm sorry. I genuinely am. Drelnak raised his weapon. As am I. The battle was brief but intense. Drelnak fought with decades of experience, his warriors coordinating perfectly. Morrison moved between them like wind, never stopping, always in motion. He targeted Drelnak specifically, recognizing the first officer as the keystone of the defense. They exchanged blows, Drelnak's blade against Morrison's blocks and strikes. The warriors tried to support their leader, but Morrison was always somewhere else. Moving, flowing, impossible to pin down. 8 seconds into the fight, Morrison saw his opening. Drelnak overextended slightly on a thrust. Morrison slipped inside his guard, struck twice to pressure points, and swept the first officer's legs. Drelnak hit the ground hard, his weapon flying from his grasp. The other warriors hesitated, seeing their leader defeated. Morrison stood over Drelnak, offering his hand. You fought with honor. It's over. Drelnak looked at the offered hand, then at his warriors. Slowly, he nodded. The warriors lowered their weapons. Morrison helped Drelnak to his feet. When you wake up, tell your people the fighting is finished. No more resistance. Help will arrive soon. Wake up? Drelnak started to ask. Morrison touched a pressure point on his neck. The first officer's eyes rolled back, and he collapsed into Morrison's arms. Morrison laid him down gently, checking to ensure he was breathing normally. The other warriors stood frozen, unsure what to do. Morrison looked at them. The same offer applies to all of you. Stand down. Surrender when help arrives. Face fair trial. Or continue fighting and risk serious injury. Your choice. They chose surrender. Morrison proceeded to the prison section. He found the control room and accessed the cell locks. Doors opened throughout the section. Confused prisoners emerged, expecting a trick or a trap. Vincent ran to the control room and found Morrison working the console. Morrison? Jake Morrison? Morrison looked up and smiled. Captain Hayes, I'm glad you're safe. Can you help organize the prisoners? Get them to the hangar bay. Transport ships will arrive in 30 minutes. Vincent stared at him. You actually did it. Everyone said you would. But seeing it is different. Did what? Morrison asked, genuinely confused. Defeated an army alone. You fought through hundreds of warriors without killing anyone. Morrison shrugged. Killing was unnecessary. They were just doing their jobs, following orders. Most of them are victims of circumstance as much as you were. Most people wouldn't see it that way. Most people aren't trying to make things better, Morrison said. They're just trying to survive. I have the training and ability to do more, so I do. Vincent helped Morrison guide the prisoners toward safety. They moved through corridors marked by Morrison's passage, past unconscious guards and disabled weapons. The freed prisoners walked in awed silence, processing what one human accomplished through skill and determination. Morrison stayed at the rear, ensuring everyone reached safety. He treated injured prisoners, offered water and reassurance, acted more like a medic than a warrior. As the last prisoners entered the hangar, alarms blared throughout the fortress. Krexnor's voice echoed through speakers. Morrison, you have defeated my warriors and freed my prisoners. Impressive. But you have not defeated me. Come to my throne room. Let us finish this face to face. Or I will activate this fortress's self-destruct and kill everyone inside, including all those prisoners you just rescued. Morrison looked at Vincent. Get them on the transports. Leave immediately. What about you? Vincent asked. I have one more person to help, Morrison said, walking toward the throne room. Morrison walked through empty corridors toward Krexnor's throne room. The fortress felt like a tomb now, silent except for his footsteps. Most guards were unconscious or had surrendered. The automated defenses lay in ruins. Only the warlord remained. The throne room entrance was sealed behind multiple force fields, each one strong enough to stop a plasma bolt. Beyond the barriers, automated weapons tracked Morrison's approach. The room was designed as a kill box, with no cover and overlapping fields of fire. Krexnor's voice came through speakers. You have come far, human. Farther than anyone else ever has. But this is where your advance ends. My throne room has defenses that cannot be bypassed or disabled. You cannot reach me. Morrison studied the force fields. Warlord Krexnor, we don't need to do this. You've lost. Your fleet is disabled. Your warriors defeated. Surrender peacefully. Face trial in the Galactic Council. You'll be treated fairly. Fairly? Krexnor laughed bitterly. I know what fair means to the Council. Execution or lifetime imprisonment. They will make an example of me. Maybe, Morrison admitted, but that's better than dying here. You still have a choice. You can still decide who you want to be in your final moments. I am Krexnor the Undefeated. I am a warlord. A conqueror. I built an empire through strength and will. That is who I am. Morrison began working on the force fields while talking. He pulled devices from his belt, analyzing the energy patterns. You're more than your past actions. Everyone is. We all make choices that define us. But we can make different choices. Better choices. The first force field flickered and died. Morrison advanced to the second barrier. Krexnor watched through cameras, his confidence wavering. How are you doing that? Those fields require access codes. Your security is good, but not perfect, Morrison said calmly. And I'm very patient. The second field collapsed. You should not be able to do this, Krexnor said, frustration clear in his voice. Nothing you do makes sense. Your ship should have been destroyed. You should have died fighting my warriors. These defenses should stop you. Yet you keep coming. Morrison disabled the third force field. Warlord. Can I tell you something? I'm terrified right now. That stopped Krexnor's protests. What? I said I'm terrified. Every mission scares me. What if I'm not fast enough? What if someone dies because I made a mistake? What if I fail? That fear never goes away. The fourth field went down. Morrison continued his steady advance. Then why do you keep fighting? Krexnor demanded. Because fear isn't a reason to stop. It's a reminder that what I'm doing matters. People are depending on me. Those prisoners needed help. You need to be stopped, not because I hate you, but because you're hurting innocents. Fear means I care about the outcome. That's good. Not bad. The final force field collapsed. Morrison stood at the threshold of the throne room, looking at the automated weapons pointing at him from every angle. Krex Nor sat on his throne, holding a detonator in one massive hand. Stop right there. One more step and I activate the fortress self-destruct. Everyone dies. Morrison stopped. He raised his hands slowly, showing he meant no immediate threat. Warlord, putting aside tactics and fighting for a moment. Can I ask you a question? What question? Why did you become a warlord? What made you choose this path? Krexnor was silent for a moment. I was a slave once. Did you know that? Gathians are strong, so other species used us for labor. I spent 20 years in chains before I killed my masters and escaped. I swore I would never be weak again. Never be controlled again. So I became the one with power. Morrison lowered his hands slightly. I understand that feeling. I was orphaned at 12 when raiders attacked my colony. My parents died protecting me. I could have spent my life seeking revenge, hunting down everyone responsible. Instead, I chose to protect others from experiencing what I experienced. How is that different from what I did? Krexnor challenged. I use my strength to defend people. You use yours to dominate them. We both had pain in our past, Warlord, but we chose different responses to that pain. Morrison took one slow step forward. The automated weapons tracked him but did not fire, awaiting Krexnor's command. Don't move, Krexnor warned, thumb hovering over the detonator. Morrison kept talking, his voice calm and reasonable. You're holding that detonator because you think it gives you control. But think about what it really represents. If you press it, hundreds die. People who served you, prisoners who survived your raids, and yourself. Is that the legacy you want? Krexnor? The warlord who murdered everyone? In a final act of spite? Better than Krexnor the defeated, the humiliated. Is it? Morrison took another step. Warlord, I've studied your raids. You avoided civilian casualties when possible. You allowed captured crews to surrender, rather than fighting to the death. Some of your prisoners report you ensured they had adequate food and medical care. Those aren't the actions of a monster. Those are choices made by someone who still has conscience. Krexnor's hand trembled slightly. You're trying to manipulate me. I'm trying to save you, Morrison said simply. Because I believe you're worth saving. You made bad choices. Yes. You hurt people. But you're still capable of making different choices. Right now, in this moment, you can decide. Be the person who chose destruction, or be the person who chose differently. Morrison walked forward steadily now, ignoring the weapons, ignoring the detonator. He moved with complete confidence. Not in his safety, but in his message. Stop, Krexnor said. But his voice lacked conviction. I won't stop, Warlord, because I believe in you. I believe that somewhere inside, you remember being that slave who wanted freedom. You wanted power so you could never be controlled again. I understand that, but look at what you became. You're doing to others what was done to you. You're creating more pain like the pain you suffered. Morrison reached the base of the throne platform. He looked up at Krexnor, his expression gentle. It's not too late, Morrison said. You can surrender. Face trial. Accept responsibility for your actions. Maybe the council will sentence you to imprisonment. Maybe worse, but you'll face it knowing you chose redemption over revenge. You chose to stop the cycle of violence. That takes more courage than any battle. Krexnor stared at this human who defeated his empire and now stood before him, offering hope instead of judgment. His entire identity was built on being the undefeated warlord, but Morrison had beaten him without breaking a sweat and showed him mercy throughout. Why didn't you just kill me? Krexnor asked quietly. You could have destroyed my ship during the battle, killed my warriors in the fortress, ended me the moment you entered this room. Why show restraint? Because killing is easy, Morrison said. Any person with a weapon can destroy. Creating something better takes real courage. The galaxy has enough death, Warlord. It needs people willing to build instead of tear down. You could be one of those builders. Krexnor's hand lowered slightly. The detonator, once held so firmly, now seemed heavy in his grasp. I don't know how to be anything except a warlord. Then learn, Morrison said. You learned how to fight. You learned how to lead. You can learn how to help. It starts with one choice. Right now. This moment. Put down the detonator and surrender. For a long moment, silence filled the throne room. Krexnor looked at the detonator, then at Morrison, then at his empty fortress, shown on surrounding screens. Everything he built was gone, defeated by one human who refused to hate him. Slowly, Krexnor set the detonator on the throne's armrest. He stood, towering over Morrison. I surrender, Morrison smiled. Thank you. The automated weapons powered down. Morrison climbed the platform steps and extended his hand. Krexnor looked at it, surprised by the gesture. Cautiously, he reached out and shook Morrison's hand. What happens now? Krexnor asked. Now we wait for the Galactic Council peacekeeping forces. They'll take you into custody. You'll face trial for your crimes. I'll testify that you surrendered peacefully and showed remorse. That might help. You would speak in my defense? You made the right choice when it mattered most, Morrison said. That deserves acknowledgement. Ambassador Zaraketh arrived with the peacekeeping force 20 minutes later. Her ships surrounded the fortress, prepared for a siege. Instead, she found Morrison sitting on the throne room steps, having a conversation with Krexnor about galactic justice systems and rehabilitation programs. Zaraketh entered the throne room with a security team, weapons ready. She stopped when she saw the scene before her. The detonator sat inactive on the throne. Krexnor's hands were unbound, yet he made no attempt to fight or flee. Morrison looked up and nodded in greeting. Ambassador Zaraketh. Perfect timing. Warlord Krexnor has agreed to surrender peacefully. He's ready to face trial at the Galactic Council. Zaraketh stared in disbelief. You accomplished all of this in under 6 hours? Morrison checked his timepiece. 5 hours and 47 minutes, actually. Most of that was travel time, and bypassing security systems. The peacekeeping forces secured Krexnor with restraints, though he did not resist. He looked at Morrison one final time before being led away. Thank you, human. Morrison nodded. Make the most of this second chance, Warlord. When the throne room emptied of everyone except Zaraketh and Morrison, she approached him slowly. How did you do this? How did you defeat an army, breach impossible defenses, and convince a warlord to surrender, all without killing anyone? Morrison stood, brushing dust from his uniform. I just did my job, Ambassador. No, Zaraketh said firmly. What you did goes beyond duty. You changed the mind of someone who spent decades believing might makes right. How? Morrison was quiet for a moment, considering his answer. I don't fight against people, Ambassador. I fight against injustice. People can change. Injustice just needs to be stopped. When you see your enemies as people, not monsters, it changes how you approach every situation. Zaraketh thought about the Battle of Crossing Nebula. How Morrison defeated her while protecting her life. You showed me mercy when we fought. You could have killed me and my crew. Why would I? Morrison asked, genuinely confused. You were following orders, defending territory. That's not evil, that's duty. Killing you would have accomplished nothing, except creating more pain. My culture believes the greatest warriors are those who destroy their enemies completely. Morrison shook his head. Ambassador, the greatest warriors are those who know when not to fight. Strength without wisdom is just violence. Power without purpose is tyranny. Anyone can destroy. Not everyone can build something better. 2 weeks after the Terminus 7 incident, the Galactic Council convened in special session. Representatives from 40 species filled the chamber, all discussing the same topic. Jake Morrison. Council Speaker Thren called the meeting to order. We gather today to discuss the implications of recent events. One human operative defeated an entire pirate empire in under 6 hours, with 0 casualties. This raises significant questions about humanity's military capabilities and intentions. Murmurs spread through the chamber. Some species expressed admiration. Others voiced concern or fear. Ambassador Zaraketh stood to speak. Council Speaker. If I may address the assembly. Thren gestured for her to continue. I have encountered Jake Morrison twice now, Zaraketh said. Once in battle, once in the aftermath of his mission to Terminus the Seven. I wish to share my observations. Thanks for watching. Also, she paused, gathering her thoughts. When I first heard Morrison's name 6 months ago, I dismissed him as irrelevant. One pilot against my fleet seemed like no threat. I was wrong. He defeated 15 cruisers, while protecting every life aboard them, including mine. I trembled when I heard his name again, because I remembered that moment of absolute defeat, combined with unexpected mercy. The chamber fell silent, listening intently. But my trembling was not from fear of death or defeat, Zaraketh continued. It was fear of being wrong about everything I believed. My culture values strength through combat. We honor warriors who destroy their enemies. Morrison showed me a different kind of strength. He wins without hate. He fights without anger. He faces impossible odds without fear. Because he does not see odds. He sees people who need help. She looked around the chamber. Morrison challenged my entire worldview. If mercy is stronger than ruthlessness, if preserving life requires more skill than taking it, then everything my people taught me about being a warrior was incomplete. Admiral Lucas Grant stood from the human delegation section. Ambassador Zaraketh speaks truth. Morrison is exceptional, but not unique in his values. Earth's history includes centuries of warfare. We learned hard lessons about the cost of violence. We teach our warriors that force is sometimes necessary but never preferable. Morrison embodies those lessons. A Galnorian representative pulsed with concern. Does humanity have more like him? Should we fear an army of Morrison-level operatives? Grant smiled slightly. Morrison is not a weapon we created. He is a person our culture produced. Yes, Earth has many who could become what he is, given training and opportunity, but they would all share his values: protection over conquest, life over death, building over destroying. The Morvathian representative clicked his mandibles thoughtfully. Then, humanity has created something unprecedented. Warriors who dream of peace. Not created. Grant corrected. Nurtured. Humanity simply taught that strength without compassion is tyranny, and compassion without strength is helplessness. Morrison found the balance. Thren spoke again. What of Warlord Krex Nor? Reports say he surrendered peacefully and is cooperating with his trial. Zaraketh nodded. Morrison convinced him that redemption was possible. The warlord who terrorized 12 systems now speaks of rehabilitation and making amends. Morrison accomplished in one conversation what decades of military threats could not. The council debated for hours. Some species wanted to recruit Morrison. Others suggested studying his methods. A few worried about humans becoming too influential in galactic affairs. Finally, Thren reached a conclusion. The council acknowledges Jake Morrison's exceptional service. However, we must understand that Morrison represents humanity's ideals, not just individual skill. How humanity raises such people matters more than what they can accomplish. The session ended with more questions than answers. But one thing was clear. The galaxy would never view humanity quite the same way again. The scene shifted to Earth, to a simple cabin in rural Colorado. Mountains rose in the distance. Pine forests surrounded the property, and a small stream ran nearby. Jake Morrison stood in his garage, working on an old truck engine. Grease covered his hands. Music played from a radio. A vehicle approached on the dirt road. Morrison looked up, wiping his hands on a rag. Captain Vincent Hayes stepped out, wearing civilian clothes. Captain Hayes, Morrison greeted him warmly. I didn't expect to see you here. Vincent walked over, looking around at the peaceful setting. I wanted to thank you personally. You saved my life and the lives of dozens of other prisoners. I needed to say that face to face. Morrison shrugged, uncomfortable with the praise. Just doing my job. I'm glad you're safe. Just doing your job, Vincent repeated with a smile. You defeated a pirate empire alone. That's beyond any job description I've ever seen. Want some coffee? Morrison asked, changing the subject. My sister Katie lives just down the road. She makes better coffee than me. And she'll want to meet you. They walked to a nearby house where Katie Morrison was gardening. She looked up as they approached, her face lighting up when she saw her brother. Jake, you didn't tell me you were having company. She stood, brushing dirt from her hands. Morrison introduced them. Katie, this is Captain Vincent Hayes. Vincent. My sister Katie. Katie shook Vincent's hand. Any friend of Jake's is welcome. Come inside, I'll make coffee. In Katie's kitchen, she brought out fresh coffee and homemade cookies. Vincent noticed family photos on the walls. Young Jake with his parents before the raid. Teenage Jake, in his first military uniform. Recent photos of Jake with Katie's children. Your brother is famous across the galaxy now, Vincent said to Katie. People call him the warrior no one can defeat. Katie laughed. Jake? Famous? He's just my annoying little brother who forgets to call and needs me to fix his truck when he breaks it. Morrison smiled. I don't break the truck that often. Last month you tried to repair the transmission yourself and made it worse, Katie reminded him. Vincent enjoyed seeing this normal side of Morrison. The legendary warrior was just a regular person who loved his family and struggled with vehicle maintenance. Katie shared stories from their childhood. Jake was always protecting people. When he was 8, he spent 3 months learning sign language to talk with a deaf classmate. When our dog died, he insisted on burying it himself so he could say a proper goodbye. He cried for an hour but refused any help. Katie, Morrison protested, embarrassed. Vincent needs to know the real you, Katie said. Not the legend, the person. You were always like this, Jake. Always helping, always caring. The military just gave you better training and bigger problems to solve. Vincent understood now. Morrison's strength came from who he fundamentally was, not from training or technology. The military shaped his abilities, but his character was already there. A communication device on Morrison's belt chimed. He checked it, his expression growing serious. What is it? Katie asked, knowing that look. Admiral Grant. There's a situation developing. Hostage crisis on a neutral station. Diplomatic solutions failed. They need me. Katie's face showed worry but also pride. She hugged her brother tightly. Be careful. Call me when you can. Morrison hugged her back. He turned to Vincent. Sorry to cut this short. Duty calls. Vincent stood, offering his hand. Before you go, I have to ask, do you ever feel fear, going into these dangerous situations alone? Morrison shook his hand firmly. Every single time. I'm terrified every mission. Fear of failing. Of someone dying because I wasn't fast enough. Or smart enough. But fear isn't a reason to stop. It's a reminder that what I'm doing matters. People depend on me. Courage is not the absence of fear, Captain. It's doing what is right despite being afraid. Vincent watched Morrison leave, understanding finally why people trembled at his name. It was not his skill or his victories. It was the certainty that he would never stop trying to help. Never stop fighting for what is right. Never stop believing that people were worth saving. Morrison's ship launched from a nearby landing pad, rising into the sky and disappearing toward orbit. Across the galaxy, different species reacted to news of Morrison's deployment. Some felt relief that help was coming. Others felt concern about the situation that required him. All recognized that wherever Jake Morrison went, change followed. On her homeworld, Ambassador Zaraketh watched the news feeds in her office. She no longer trembled at his name. Instead, she felt something deeper. Hope that if humanity could produce someone like Jake Morrison, Perhaps her species could learn the same lessons. She began drafting a proposal for the Valkyrie Military Academy. A new training philosophy emphasizing restraint and tactical non-lethality. The understanding that the strongest warriors are those who know when not to fight. She included Morrison's methods, his beliefs, his approach to conflict. She titled the proposal, The Morrison Doctrine. It outlined a new way of thinking about warfare and strength. Victory through skill, not brutality. Protection over conquest, life preserved over life taken. Her superior officer reviewed the proposal, initially skeptical. This goes against centuries of Valkyrie tradition. Yes, Zaraketh agreed. And our traditions led to me being defeated by one human who was not even trying to kill me. Morrison showed us a better way. We would be fools not to learn from it. The proposal was submitted to the Valkyrie High Command. Debates began immediately, fierce arguments about honor and tradition versus new understanding. But the seed was planted, change was beginning. In other parts of the galaxy, similar conversations started. Species that witnessed Morrison's actions discussed what they meant. Could warriors be effective while showing mercy? Could strength include compassion? Could the goal be peace instead of victory? Morrison's ship traveled through faster-than-light space toward the next crisis. He sat in the cockpit, reviewing mission details, preparing for another challenge. He did not know that his name was changing how the galaxy thought about warfare. He only knew that people needed help, and he had the ability to provide it. That was enough. The ship's computer announced arrival in 30 minutes. Morrison began his pre-mission routine: equipment check, tactical analysis, mental preparation. He thought about what Katie said, how he was always like this. Always helping, always caring. She was right. The military gave him tools, but his heart drove his actions. He thought about Krex Nor, now in custody but alive and seeking redemption. He thought about Vincent, safe with his family. He thought about the prisoners freed from Terminus 7th. Every life mattered. Every person deserved a chance to be better. The mission ahead would be dangerous. Hostages in immediate peril, hostile forces unwilling to negotiate. But Morrison had faced worse. He would do what he always did. Try talking first. Use force only when necessary. Protect everyone possible. Show mercy when able, not because it was easy, not because it guaranteed success, but because it was right. The ship dropped out of faster-than-light travel. The station appeared ahead, surrounded by hostile vessels. Morrison studied the tactical situation, already forming his approach. "All right," he said quietly to himself. "Let's save some lives." His hands moved across the controls with practiced ease. The Valiant accelerated toward the crisis, carrying the warrior no one could defeat. The warrior who fought not for glory or conquest, but for the simple belief that every person deserved protection. Every life had value, and peace was always worth fighting for. Somewhere in the vastness of space, Ambassador Zaraketh finished her proposal and submitted it officially. The Morrison Doctrine would be taught to future generations of Valkyrie warriors. They would learn that the human whose name once made her tremble was not a threat to fear, but an ideal to aspire toward. Humanity had given the galaxy a gift. Not a weapon, not a conqueror, but a reminder that strength could serve compassion, that power could protect the weak, and that the greatest warriors were those who understood that victory meant everyone survived, even your enemies. Jake Morrison did not set out to change the galaxy. He just wanted to help people, but in helping, in showing mercy, in refusing to treat enemies as less than human, he started a quiet revolution in how civilizations thought about conflict. The galaxy would never be quite the same, and that was exactly what it needed.